Hey, it's the Bergie and Booker show. He's Bergie. I'm Booker. We're going to talk about the LIV golf. Well, the PGA Championship, which went to a LIV qualified player. I know you love the LIV tour. But first, let's talk about our looking forward to championship weekend for NCAA men's college lacrosse. It's going to be insane because we have Notre Dame versus UVA and Duke versus an upstart Big Ten Penn State program. Let's go Duke Penn State first. I know who you're picking.
No, I'm not picking Penn State to win that game.
Why not?
Because, well, I can hope that they win that game. I am pro Big Ten for sure, 100%. But I don't want to see Penn State in the national championship game on Monday just getting killed. So
wait. If somehow they can beat Duke, which Jacksonville did this year.
I know.
So, I mean, and that's not I'm not trying to say something smart alecky about Jacksonville. Johnny Galloway is doing incredible work.
Jacksonville did it 2 years in a row.
Yeah.
If the Big Ten's not going to actually compete for the national championship and win the national championship, now I want to see the best 3 games I can see.
You want to see overtime.
Yeah. By the way, shout out on the girls' side. My buddy Mike McCoy's daughter is the starting defender at Denver, and unbelievable to knock off UNC. Just unbelievable, and that's going to be exciting. We have boys and girls in this family, so we watch both. So we're going to watch all weekend. But Duke has by the way, Duke gets a walk, which they should as the #1 seed. Maryland's been there before, but of course they're even playing at noon. I mean,
yeah. That's the way it should be.
Yeah,
the NCAA screwed up last weekend where the higher seeded team should play first every time because then you have the advantage of scouting next. You're not worried about getting ready to your game and wondering if you're even going to win.
I don't think Penn State can beat Duke. I just don't think they can. I don't think Penn State would beat Maryland. They didn't, but would beat a lot of people on a regular basis that are really, really good. I think they're capable of winning any game. Yep. I don't think they're capable of winning 2 games in 48 hours. I do not think so. And against a major Duke, UVA, Notre Dame, I don't think they're going to be able to do it. So I'm not picking them. That doesn't mean I'm not rooting for them. But Penn State, it's with me. It's more of I lean more towards not liking them than liking them just because of the Penn State.
You lived in State College.
Yeah, but I'm not a fan of their lacrosse program. And we're talking about their lacrosse program from a standpoint of
What about Chris Hogan? Chris Hogan's a star. You want to jump to Notre Dame versus Virginia, round 3. Right. And UVA's 2-0 right now. Everybody keeps saying it's hard to beat the same team 3 times. Sure, but they're playing on Saturday. And I don't care what's happened before or since. But
so this is a game where I think it's going to be very, very interesting. I think Notre Dame still has a big-ass chip on their shoulder from last year. And I think Notre Dame is at risk of let's say, blowing up on Saturday and not having any juice for Monday.
I just hope they get by him. It'll be interesting. Pat Cavanaugh was a little bit out. Apparently he got cheap shotted, and the referees called it against Johns Hopkins yesterday, which I did. I'm here in Chestertown where the internet's not great, but I was able to track down ESPNU and watch the entirety of the Notre Dame Hopkins game. It was interesting. Hopkins tried to play with an edge. There's a difference between an edge and dirty, and I think they crossed it there with Cavanaugh. There was another incident in the substitution box where a kid easily could have avoided without losing a stride. Instead, he decides to blow up the kid. So it was interesting to see that, but it's happened before, and it's not the end of the world. And let's go Irish.
So I watched that game. I never thought Hopkins was in it. I just never got the feeling that they were in it for real. And but I also didn't think they were going to win. So I watched it, but I watched it like they're never in this game. I
But
don't
you're
think that's
Big
going to
Ten
be.
Bergie.
I am Big Ten Bergie, but
Uh,
Hopkins and by the way, I know I just mentioned it, but Big Ten, Maryland, 48 championships since they
yeah,
joined 14, 15. So I'm all in. I'm just not when it comes to lacrosse. It's like who cares if you root for Minnesota football if they're in a Big Ten game, or who cares if you root for the. But when you're talking about the of the teams that really compete against Maryland for guys in the Big Ten, you're talking about Penn State, you're talking
yep,
about Hopkins, and you're talking about maybe Rutgers. Now maybe Michigan will be up there now and
yeah.
State, but no one's deciding to go to Maryland or Michigan and saying like really has the choice to play at both schools right now and saying I'm going to Michigan unless they want to play early. And I think I think the Penn State Maryland rivalry is in lacrosse should get to the thing where we're not happy if they win. Okay, so maybe I'm there already and there with Hopkins. But I think the UVA Notre Dame game, if you can, I mean, obviously stopping UVA's offense. I mean, Schellenberger went nuts,
Yeah.
and they said he's healthy, and he had whatever he had 6 goals. I mean, the first 16 seconds he had 2 goals,
Yeah.
and
Not a bad start.
they never recaptured those 2 goals. They really were never able to get past those 2 goals they started them with, and UVA game. It was a great game. The Army game was a great game. We saw some great lacrosse. I think Philadelphia for Penn State, if you can get a home crowd
Yep.
screaming and yelling, obviously it's in the best possible place for Penn State to be playing. And there are going to be natural Duke haters, so they're going to be
Yeah.
rooting for Penn State no matter what. Just like I said, I thought a lot of people were rooting for Army last week, just not because they hated Penn State. It was just that was the team to root for. I think Penn State will be the team to root for on Saturday because people like when that happens. People like chaos. They like when the underdog wins. I
Yeah.
don't think it's going to happen. I think he's a better coach. Let me put it to you that way. I think he's a better coach. I think his players are going to be better prepared.
Yeah, and they're also better. I mean, if you look down on paper and look at the first and second team All-Americans, and they have an attackman, Dyson Williams, on Duke, number 51. Crazy stats this year. And I would pick him first in a lot of drafts. And he is a third team, I think, or maybe even honorable mention All-American of the first version of the All-American team that came out. So it'll be interesting because they have Brennan O'Neill. Andrew McAdory is insane good. He could play for me any day. O'Neill, obviously, when he is inspired, it's over. So Penn State's going to have to find a way. And you know what, Bergie? You're going to see some zone defense.
Yeah, and you're going to see Penn State's going to have to get physical with them. They're going to have to get physical. That's the only chance they have. Obviously, you can say got to get the ground balls, got to get the call, but they're going to have to get physical because if they're not physical with them, they'll just out athlete them all day long. Same thing. I think Notre Dame is going to have to get physical with UVA too. And I'm not saying Duke and Virginia are afraid of getting physical, but that's what you're going to have to do because Virginia's got a hell of a lot of good lacrosse players. And I hate to say that too, but they got a lot of good lacrosse players. So just shutting one guy down isn't going to be the answer. You're going to have to beat up everybody. I mean,
the answer is for the two underdogs, which Penn State, their goaltender, Jack Fraction, is a phenomenal kid. I did a bunch of games when he was in high school playing for Bullis. Now he's at Penn State. And he's doing well. If he plays great, and really, there's how's that for stating the obvious, Bergie. If he plays great, yeah, they're gonna. God,
he played great against Army in the first half. Army looked like they were playing. I tell the kids, don't ever play catch with the goalie. And guess what Army did? They played catch with the goalie a lot. And some of it was their fault, and some of it he just made some great plays.
Yep.
They got to him in the second half a little bit, and just ran. Leads me
they ran out of time.
The end of the Army game. How do they not shoot earlier? Two different guys, and there's the difference. Okay, that's why those kids are at Army and not the Big Ten and not the ACC. An ACC or a Big Ten guy shoots that shot with 13 seconds or shoots that shot with 8 seconds. He wants to be the guy. The guys in basketball that pass it off because they're afraid to miss the shot. They didn't have a kid who wanted to take the shot. They had a man up with 23 seconds in the game, and 2 different times they had to look at it. And they didn't shoot it, and then they wait a little scrum, and the guy goes. And that's it's not meant to be a bust against Army, because I respect the shit out of the Army and Naval Academy and all those guys. But that's why that guy's at Army and not at Duke, Maryland, or UVA, because he was afraid to take the shot.
And then we got the Notre Dame UVA. That's going to be insane. Liam Entenmann's going to have to play great. Matt Noon's in goal for UVA. That's going to be sick. Talk about playing great. How about your PGA teaching professional who had the slam dunk hole in one and finished 15th in the PGA championship?
Block mania. It's a real thing, man. Michael Block he's got an exemption for next week's tour in Texas. He's got an exemption for next week's tour. He cried all weekend in all these interviews. He was what sports is supposed to be about.
Yeah.
It was a guy getting a chance and making it. Now he's made in 2023, he's been in 6 professional events, and he's made $3,000. Yesterday he made $288,000. $288,000 yesterday, and he shared 15th place with whatever it was, a number of guys.
Yep.
He's in the PGA next year. He's got an exemption for next weekend, and he's Tin Cup. Not as bad off as Tin Cup was, because he's a pro at a club, but I mean, he's not he's not in some shack with Rene Russo. But
and you just said that story of him being a part of it. That's the way it's supposed to be. Is LIV Golf the way it's supposed to be? Is that how it's supposed to be?
LIV Golf is doing great. They're a different thing. They are a completely different league. Obviously, Brooks wins, proving that he better get on the Ryder Cup. Okay, all the PGA guys said he'll never win a championship again. And you go to LIV and your career's over. Well, the really good golfers that are at LIV are continuing to compete when they go to these majors.
Sure.
And maybe one of the reasons they're competing is because they're playing less golf and they're working out and they're getting paid a lot. And they have no worries. So
that's the only. I think the 54 hole format and the shotgun start is a little quirky, but if everybody's doing it the same way, you can't say it's that quirky, because that's somebody else is teeing off on 4, you're on 12, I'm on 7, somebody's on 18. But the other thing is the exuberant amount of money. At some point, something has to go terribly wrong.
Well, I think
that's my concern.
Think about this. So Brooks is making all that money for the LIV Tour, and he just picked up 3.1 from the PGA yesterday.
Yeah.
I mean, and of course it's downplayed. They when it was the Masters, they talked about the LIV guys not winning. Well, now when the LIV guy has won, so LIV has been in. I'll say all right, the guys in the black shirts have been in contention for the first one, big time, and then they won it this time. So there's 2 more majors, and if it turns out to be 2-2 or 3-1, 3-1 LIV. Can you imagine 3-1 LIV? Even if it's 2-2, it's a win for the LIV Tour. Even at 2-2, I don't know why they can't get along. I don't know why they can't figure it out. We've talked about it. Get Greg Norman out of the way. Get the PGA guy out of the way. And get some common sense people in there and say, what's going on? I mean, what is this Michael Block going to do if the LIV Tour calls him next weekend? What's he going to do? I mean,
that's a great question. And to process that, as a PGA teaching pro.
Yeah.
But if LIV comes at him, they're not going to come at him and say, here's $10.
No.
They're going to come at him and say, here's 10 million. We want you.
Yeah, they're going to come at you and say, hey, listen, we love your story. You're 46 years old. He's 46. He's not 26. $10 million guaranteed at 46. I don't know what his situation is. I don't know if his wife likes a lot of purses and shoes. I don't know what his kid's situation is. But I'm telling you, handed $10 million at 46 years old is a pretty good, next 20 to 30 years if you're not a complete idiot. And
that's a tax problem.
Yeah, and assuming he's worked his way to where he is, which he obviously has, he seems pretty humble guy too. Now, because of what he did with the PGA and getting in, and he's a pro and all of that, a lot of those guys are anti-LIV. A lot of those guys are this. I did it the way I was supposed to do it and all that. But no one's handing him $10 million And it might even be more. And
That would be right up Liv's alley to see it. The news will probably break sometime soon if
well,
Liv tries to jump at him.
imagine if he does well. Imagine if he does well next weekend, and this thing turns into something. I mean, not maybe he'll say to himself, "I don't need to live money because this is a freaking book. This Amazon Prime's already calling me and saying, let's make the movie of it." But I think it's neat. I think that it was good for golf to have everybody in there. And now that Rory and everybody else has stopped, sort of edging the LIV, and the LIV guys have stopped edging the PGA. We don't need Patrick Reed mouthing off, and we don't need Rory spouting off. We don't need either person.
Yeah, and the issue was the where the money's coming from, and the Greg Norman factor is what people can stand on and say, you know what, I'm not going to support LIV.
The money factor is complete BS. Where the money comes is from BS, because they all take sponsors. They look into every sponsor. I've said this 100 times. Are we looking into Nike? I mean, are we looking into Adidas? Are we looking into, Daimler Chrysler? I mean,
like Titleist.
Yeah, title. Are we looking into any of these sponsors? No. And the Saudi money is paying for the LPGA tour, and it seems to be good for a lot of other things and a lot of other people. So where the money comes from is an absolute. It's stupid to me.
What about, is it the shock factor of so much money so fast? If you're a good player, if you're Dustin Johnson, you're raking in $100 million.
Yeah.
That's not a bad rake. I'll rake those leaves for him. If he and Paulina need me to come over and rake their leaves, I'll take care of it.
Yeah, I think Paulina probably has some expensive taste, probably a little bit more than Michael Block's wife. But listen, but I also think that Dustin Johnson is one of those guys that he's just confident. He's like, okay, I'm going to take the money. If it falls apart, I'm still one of the best players in the world. The PGA is going to take it back. They're going to have to take it back because he can go qualify. What are they going to do? Not let him play in the U.S. Open? No, just go qualify.
Or he can always play in the Masters because he's already got a jacket.
Yeah. So both parties went about it the wrong way. I just think LIV went about it a little less wrong and a little bit way overboard with the money. I've never seen a LIV contract, so I have no idea how much of that money is guaranteed. It's like saying, this NFL quarterback, Michael Vick years ago signed for $130 million. And at the time, that was the most anybody was. He didn't see anywhere near that money. Okay.
Right.
Most of the guys, when they signed in the NFL as quarterbacks up until just recently, had very little of it guaranteed. A $240 million Lamar Jackson, contract does not guarantee him $240 million. So how much of the guys that are getting the money? I'll bet you Phil, I'll bet you DJ, I'll bet you the big names that jumped early got guaranteed money. But I can't imagine that everybody's getting guaranteed money.
He's Big Ten Bergie. I'm Booker. We do what we do. Do it pretty well. Cheers. Go Irish.
Go Irish.